All right, it's time to catch up with a guy, Derek Piper. Talk some Illinois basketball, recruiting, some old school prep recruiting talk on the Illini Inquirer Podcast. How are you, Derek?
I'm good. I'm in a little bit of unfamiliar territory. My Jordan wall's gone. Shout out to my wife. I'll give her a shout out. That's a positive thing, right? With another baby on the way. If you hadn't heard, I got a daughter coming sometime during the season. Not great timing out of me, but I moved the office. So my kids are going to get the former office. And now I'm in a new room, which is currently under construction. So don't hit me too hard with the plain backdrop, but I'm here. I'm happy to talk some hoops.
It is not a hostage situation for Derek Piper. It is a nice accent wall behind you in the Piper household there. But no, congratulations to you and Haley. Girl, man, it changes your world. And just taking directions like you are, changing rooms, Derek, that's a good start with having a daughter around, because they do. They just have a way of wrapping you around their fingers. Not that boys don't, but it's a little bit different when you're a girl dad, man.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm just trying to be coachable, and I think this is a good start.
That's a good way to approach it. All right, let's talk. We got visits coming up. Big 2024 stretch here. Before we get into that, let's talk about the guys who are already committed. 2 in-state post players, front court pieces, Morez Johnson and Jase and Jakstys both rise in the 24/7 sports recruiting rankings. Morez just outside that 5-star territory, but he's at number 35 now in the country. Well, his former teammate, James Brown, has kind of tumbled a little bit. He's down to 91. But Jason Jakstys makes his first appearance in these rankings. 3-star prospect, number 111 overall. I know our guy, Eric Bossy, really likes him from 24/7 Sports. So just what's your reaction to that, Derek?
Very nice jump from Morez. You're still going to have people out there, and probably even Morez himself, who thinks he's deserving of that 5th star. And as far as the production goes and what he did at Peach Jam against the best competition in the country, I mean, he was the leading rebounder in the league. He was very dominant, double-double performance pretty much every game that he was there. So if he has a stellar senior season, he should be like a legitimate consideration for McDonald's All-American. And we'll see how that goes. And sometimes I know fans get frustrated where if you're a Duke commit, if you're a North Carolina commit, sometimes you maybe get the benefit of the doubt on some of those political decisions, as some would call it. But Morez, I really like the way his game's progressed. There's more in his bag offensively. Like I think that now he's flashed some of the 15-foot jump shot. I'm not saying it's the strength of his game. It's still something he needs to work on. Free throw line still something that needs to get better for him. But I like that he can face up and kind of drive people. I think he's just far more aggressive and confident offensively. I can use either hand in the post, and defensively, just very active, very gritty on the glass. I mean, he's an elite rebounder, very strong, and just a very good athlete and rim runner. So this is a nice boost for him to be the 6th best center in the country. You'll take that as far as definitely Illinois goes. And really in that range, it's been a sweet spot for Illinois. I mean, Io was like 30th in the country. Kofi was a little bit lower than that, kind of around 50th or so. I know guys that didn't stick around / hit. I mean, Adam Miller was kind of in that 30 to 35 range, Sky in that 30 to 35 range, but pretty good spot for Morez, and maybe a senior season gets him that 5th star potentially.
Yeah, before I'll ask you about Jakstys here in a moment, but they started off the Underwood era recruiting guards extremely well, right? Like maybe some of these guys didn't work out, but just the level of recruitment they were winning for guards, and Adam Miller was a heck of a get. Andre Curbelo was a heck of a get. Obviously, Io DeSumo. But this recent run of bigs, Kofi Coburn impact seems like it is real, and just the program resurgence. But, I mean, Morez Johnson, I mean, Dane Danger was a big transfer get, right? Amani Hansberry. This is a really strong group of front court pieces, Derek, that they have put together. And I've compared it to what Michigan State always seems to have in the front court, is just bigs upon bigs and depth in there.
It's a big deal. You can't survive in the Big Ten when you're at such a huge disadvantage. And Illinois for a decent time, post Myers Leonard, really. I mean, there was a long stretch. Nana Egwu, your guy, was able to defend, but left a decent amount to be desired offensively. And yeah, obviously with Kofi, Dane had a nice showing last year. Hopefully he's able to build on that. And Amani, there's a lot of hope for what he can be long-term too. And that was a recruitment that Illinois was really fired up to win. Morez comes in. I mean, he's got a chance to be an all-league player, a guy that athletically, physically is not going to be punked by anybody. So they're very, very excited about that. And to pair that with still some pretty successful guard recruiting, and obviously gone out and gotten wings in the portal, that puts you in a position to have a nice, well-rounded roster. And Morez is a big part of that.
Yeah, no, of course, we can't ignore the development of Coleman Hawkins and what he's become for this program as well. Jason Jakstys, 111. I think 24/7 Sports definitely the hype evaluation service on Jakstys, but I'm sure Illinois is liking seeing that.
They are. And I'm glad you mentioned Coleman Hawkins there, because when Jakstys commits, you got a lot of people, oh no, Brandon Lee 2.0, and a guy that's very tall and slender and is a big time physical project. And we saw Lee, hopefully he has success moving on there to ISU, but just at the high major level, it was particularly in the Big Ten, it was a tough and tall task for him. He didn't get a lot of production out of his years here in Champaign. Jakstys now is ranked higher than what Coleman Hawkins was coming out of high school. I mean, now he's kind of in that range, and tread lightly with this example I'm about to use. Like, Ethan Happ was like in the 120s. and that's, you look at Jakstys kind of as that skilled big man that maybe takes a couple years to develop physically. And maybe you hit on something that Wisconsin's had going for a number of years. So they saw that out of him. They saw him as a long-term piece. They liked his skill set. They thought he was more athletic than Lee, and more mobile, the ability to step out and just be more skilled off the bounce and be able to shoot a little bit better. So, like you said, Eric Bossi saw him down in Atlanta for the Under Armour event there in July and really liked him. I liked him in June, and that's why Illinois, based on what he had shown there, decided to push post AAU. So for him to be just outside the top 100, kind of in that 125, above 150 range, it's a good spot for him. And I think probably will calm some of the angst, if there was some out there. He's going to have to live up to it and have to go through the process of getting stronger, because that definitely is a big thing. But maybe allows people to understand, okay, it's not just Illinois that sees promise in him. The national guys do as well.
Yeah, I think there's always room for developmental front court pieces as long as they're committed to that process, right? Like, and I thought Brandon Lee was. I think Coleman Hawkins has shown that he is too. Derek, before we get into the guards, because they do need guards, where are we at in the recruiting calendar, and what are we seeing from the Illini staff right now on the recruiting trail?
It's that traditional time of year we get the official visits rolling. I know we haven't had one, and Illinois, by locking up Morez really early, by getting Jakstys on board late in the summer, it's not a situation where it's, big official every weekend and that type of thing. But we're going to have we're going to talk about Mikey Lewis coming up, and then obviously Jase Butler after that. But this past weekend opened up the open recruiting period. So post AAU, you start to line up some official visits with guys in that current class, and just you're kind of done with your evaluations for the summer. And it's kind of really a dead period where you finish things up with your team, and coaches kind of take a breath, and players are kind of worn out by playing all spring and summer. And once they get their visits lined up, they want to be able to take some time to themselves too. So now it ramps up where the staff can get back on the road. They can go out, and some staffs are having in-home visits. Some are going to practices and watching some open gyms and that kind of stuff. So Brad Underwood has been out. He went out west to see both Mikey Lewis and then Jase Butler in California earlier this week. Stopped in to see Jeremiah Fears yesterday in Arizona at Compass Prep. And I know Tim's been up in Chicago, saw Phoenix Gill, seen some of the younger guys like Jackson Davis from Warren, Davion Thompson from Bolingbrook, two really impressive 2B sophomores this year that showed out well coming up. So I think that's kind of the way you look at it, is trying to get your eyes on more guys, get some of that face time with younger guys. And maybe it's a chance for, prior to a visit with Mikey, you go get that face-to-face, and then you get the visit. So you try to build some momentum there, or have some in-homes. But it's a good chance for the staff now to not have limitations and go out and see people kind of in their home environment.
Illinois has landed some talented guards in previous years. The issue is keeping them. Curbelo, Miller, Sky Clark, Jaden Epps. But they need a 2024 guard. Derek, obviously, point guard remains a need. You got Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn coming in, Ty Rogers taking on that role, but you need more scoring options there. And you mentioned Mikey Lewis is the first of the two official visits they got scheduled over the next couple weeks. What do you know about Mikey Lewis? What would he bring game-wise, and just what's his recruitment look like right now?
He was one of the top scorers in the EYBL this past spring and summer, a guy that really wasn't on the national radar prior to that. I mean, he'd played up even as a 16U, playing with the Oakland Soldiers, a well-respected program out there on the West Coast. But it was really his arrival that first weekend in April, the first live period, led the entire EYBL in scoring, put up 25 points a game, got a wave of offers, including one from Illinois. And Chester Frazier really jumped in heavy with him as soon as he saw him that weekend. And I know that's been a big deal to Mikey and his family, just how hard Chester came after him, prioritized him, and that relationship that they've been able to build over the coming months. So in terms of the player, I mean, you look at him through the EYBL regular season, 18 points a game, 38% from three, just a really smooth scorer that can score it off the bounce, that can hit it in the mid-range, catch and shoot threes. Not the most explosive athlete. I think that's one thing. If you look at him athletically, he's not a guy that's going to maybe finish over people at the rim as much, but he's just someone that at 6'3" as a combo guard can really just be a bucket. So that's something they look at. I think they see him as someone that can pair with Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn, and you'd have a lot of scoring punch in that backcourt if you're able to get him. So recruitment-wise, he's got 3 official visits coming up in consecutive weekends, kicking off with this weekend. He's got Illinois, then LSU, then Ole Miss, and then he's looking to make a decision after that. So the way I've seen it, I think that Illinois and LSU are probably the top 2 at this point. I think LSU might have a little bit of a leg up going into the visits, that maybe have a little bit more guaranteed opportunity to sell. I know that he's talked about the fact that Mike McMahon coached John Morant at Murray State, and now they're at LSU, which isn't a bad selling point to a guard that's looking to be highlighted and get to the next level eventually. So, but we'll see how this visit goes. He hasn't been to any of those campuses, so really a first chance to get the feel of what those campuses feel like, what the team environment is, and it's a big one for Illinois because he's a top 100 bona fide legit scorer that could come in and make an impact.
I want to take a minute and tell you about Home Field. They are a premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis. They emphasize their commitment to creating incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. They feature a growing collection of over 150 plus colleges to choose from, including, of course, the University of Illinois. Home Field designs are super unique, guys, because they delve into the archives and history of each school, including Illinois, and they use unique logos and iconic moments to create thoughtfully designed apparel. So if you go to homefieldapparel.com, you can see the 80s Illini football helmet that so many like, Flying Illini logo, the Illinois basketball logo from the 2004-2005 Illini team. The script Illini is there. And you guys, these are the most comfortable shirts. And that's what I love about Home Field Apparel. You get the comfort, but you also get authenticity and nostalgia. So I'm telling you guys, give their site a look. It's not the typical Illinois gear you usually see. You can find them at homefieldapparel.com, where you can see their collection of colleges available. And guess what? Our listeners at Illini Inquirer get 15% off their first order with discount code Illini23. Again, 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com with discount code Illini23. So, as you go to Illinois football games, get ready for the Illinois basketball season, Home Field Apparel is the perfect apparel to get you ready for the upcoming season. So check them out at homefieldapparel.com. I'm very excited to announce a new partnership with Underdog Fantasy. We decided to partner with Underdog because it's the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Underdog Fantasy has a lot to offer, including their Pick'em game. In Pick'em, you pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's game for a chance to win big. It's so easy to play. Just pick 2 to 5 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can more than 20 times your amount of money by going 5 for 5. They also have a Best Ball Mania. If you think you know football, you got to check this one out. This year's Best Ball Mania has $50 million in total prizes up for grabs, with the winner taking home $3 million. So sign up today with promo code Illini and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with my promo code Illini to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. You must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ncpgambling.org. Jase Butler visiting not this weekend, but the weekend after. Mikey Lewis, a little more under the radar prospect, but it seems like Illinois really, really likes him. Derek, what do you know about his game, what he could bring, and his recruitment as well?
Yeah, the fact that they had the rankings update, he wasn't ranked in the top 150, still an unranked 3-star guy. You look at the other players in his recruitment. I mean, he's gone to UC Santa Barbara, Loyola Marymount, Colorado State earlier this week, and then Right now, I think Illinois is his final official visit, and then he wants to make a decision early October. So you're pretty much battling mid-major programs, mid to low major programs. Someone that really made a name for himself and really jumped on Illinois' radar in June at a event called Section 7 out there in Phoenix. And he's a 6'4" lefty, pretty smooth. He's got a nice build to him. I like his playmaking. He can shoot from three, not as consistent as Mikey was over the summer. I think when you compare the two, Mikey's just more of that polished scorer, more scoring punch. Jase is more of a playmaker, a guy that can make decisions and get other guys involved. I think that's more of a skill set for him. So I think in terms of play style, when Illinois saw him out there in Phoenix, they got some shades of like a Jalen Brunson type. Now, Jalen Brunson was like a McDonald's All-American 5-star. So I'm just talking play style, lefty, smooth, maybe not that much athletic. Some guys might even overlook his long-term or high-end upside. I think that even came into play with Jalen. And I'm not trying to go too heavy on that comp, but lefty, smooth, and Illinois really, really likes him. Like if they were in a situation where they didn't get Mikey, they got Jase Butler, they'd be very happy. And I think that's kind of how they've set themselves up, where they can get one of the two, and they hope to close on Jase. They can't get Mikey and just really play this thing out the next 2 weekends.
Yeah, so it seems like one of those two in the class of 2024. And then it seems like some underclassmen, Derek, are making the trip to Champaign here soon. So who are some highlight visitors coming up of those younger classes on these unofficial visits?
I'll start with the biggest one, and there are a couple this weekend to highlight as well. But Phoenix Gill coming October 6th for the Illinois-Nebraska game, Friday night under the lights. That's a big one for Illinois. He's going to Iowa State, I think, next weekend. And Illinois, Iowa State, Northwestern, we're all in to see him this week. And that's really the highlight of his recruitment right now. I think there's a chance to close it down early, particularly for Illinois. I think Illinois is going to really explore that when they have him on campus and see if they can get him to pop early. And I personally feel like there's a good chance that happens, that they would be able to get an early pledge. And he didn't play AAU, so he didn't go up against some of the other high-level competition that some of these other guys did, but really, really liked him in June. The fact that what he showed in those live periods, the way his body's developed, obviously great bloodlines, would be great to have a legacy there with Kendall's son. So Illinois really likes him. I think they got a chance to close this thing early. As for this weekend, you look at Braylon Mullins is a 6'5" shooting guard out of Indiana that's coming in this weekend, just cracked the top 100 with the recent update, and played for Indiana Elite on the Adidas circuit. Shot about, I think it was the live period in July when it was the Adidas Championship, shot about 47% from three. So a knockdown three-point shooter that's got some size. And there's a number of programs involved there: Indiana, Purdue, Notre Dame, Cincinnati. But Illinois to get a visit is a good thing as well. And you look at an in-state kid, and there will be a handful of those. Like I mentioned, Jackson Davis earlier and Davion Thompson. Those, in terms of younger guys, and I'll even throw Bryce Hurd in there as well, a product from the state that was down at Mount Verde last year, moved back. He's a 4-star, top 100 type of talent in 25 that I think Illinois will try to get as many top kids in the state to campus as possible. They got one coming this weekend, and Gabe Solarski from Bennett Academy up there in Lisle, Illinois, and he's a 2026 6'5" playmaking wing, someone that they're really impressed with as what he's shown so far early in his high school career, and a number of other Big Ten programs are as well. Michigan State had him on campus last month. He's going to make a visit tour to a handful of others coming up as well, but he's a Mean Streets product. We know Tim's relationship with that AAU program, and Illinois just trying to get him to feel the in-state love and try to put themselves in a good early position for him is something they're looking to do this weekend.
Anything from current team workouts, Derek? I think the big news would be Marcus Damask and his comeback from hamstring injuries, which always can be tricky, but it'd be important just to get him with the team and getting him some reps since he missed some of that time during the summer, especially that overseas trip. But anything from team workouts we should know?
I know that coming back to school, they wanted to start things slow. You go heavy in the summer, extra practice time. You go over to Spain, and they want to just kind of let the team have some rest. You don't want to burn them out too much. They said that he'll probably start ramping things up soon. But they've been getting in the gym and doing some workouts. I did ask about Marcus recently, and I've been told he looks good. I don't know if he's full go. I don't know currently exactly what the medical status is, but have heard he's been able to get out on the court and do some things. And you like to hear that because he's going to be a big piece of this team if he's healthy. And it does stink that he wasn't able to play in Spain with the hamstring. And you don't like that it lingered throughout the summer, but he's someone that experience-wise, shooting-wise, and a good passer, high IQ player, he's going to be important. Of course, you're going to hear, Terrence is really, really impressive. He had one of those moments when he dominated the first half over there in Spain. You hear about that. You hear still good things about Ty, and that's going to be important as we kind of monitor what the buzz is and what things look like going into the fall and throughout. Is what's the progression of him picking up the point guard position and just trying to finish more efficiently at the rim. I think that's something coming out of Spain they probably want to address with him and just try to work on, is him being able to go there. We talked about it on the podcast around that time. It's just we know he can get there. We know he's physical. We know that he's able to do a lot of things off the dribble, but he's got to finish at the rim at a high rate. So I think Dane's another guy that they like and has been playing well. So hearing a lot about the depth, like that's one thing that's been highlighted is like even someone around the program said, hey, every offseason, admittedly, people will say, man, we got so much depth and we love all our guys and the fights for playing time are going to be tough. But like, I think one thing with Illinois this year is it's not only a lot of talented players, it's a lot of experienced players too. A lot of guys that have played college basketball. So they like that about this team, and they do feel like they'll have a very deep team.
Yeah, I think that's legit. I think even if you have questions about this team, Derek, I think it is legit that they have depth on this team. I want to bring up I don't know if we've talked much about the non-conference schedule on here, Derek, but obviously the exhibition against Kansas is going to be awesome. 5:00 on October 29th. We got Eastern Illinois, Oakland at home. You have Marquette at home, a top 10, 15 opponent. Roger Powell and Valpo come to the State Farm Center on November 17th. And you got Southern, Western Illinois. The Jimmy V Classic, again, Madison Square Garden, Florida Atlantic, and then head to Tennessee, Colgate, Missouri, and Fairleigh Dickinson. Obviously beat Purdue last year, but just going down that schedule, Derek, what do you think of that non-conference?
You got some challenges, and I saw the news yesterday of Colgate being moved. I think Illinois was probably trying to do that to lighten up that late November into December, because you're probably going to see those at least one or two. There's going to be two early non-conference games. Last year they were staggered, where you had Maryland, then Jimmy V, then Penn State at home. So I think how that gets scheduled around the Florida Atlantic Tennessee game, you're not going to have a Big Ten game that week, but Colgate's a team that's been an NCAA tournament team, one of the top 3-point shooting squads. I'm not saying they're going to beat Illinois. I mean, athletically, Illinois should absolutely overwhelm them, but we saw it with Penn State or just some teams that in the tournament, if they're hot from three on a certain game, or especially if you're overlooking them, that can be a dangerous one. But yeah, I mean, Tennessee truly in a true road game. And that's one that when I wrote up the non-conference superlatives, like doing some digging on what their home court environment's like. I mean, they get like 16, 17,000 like strong in those big non-con games. Like they hosted Arizona last year, Illinois, especially if they're good early. That should be a rocking environment there in Knoxville on a no football Saturday too. So excited for that one. Of course, excited for the Jimmy V with Florida Atlantic, a team that brings back pretty much everybody from that squad that made the Final Four. And that's a really good tandem of guards that they have. So I think Illinois, as you kind of question what their point guard play looks like, that's one that could really test them. And the Marquette game early at home is going to be a great environment. And was it Sam Vecini? Did he put Marquette like in his top 5? I know he had Illinois up there in the top 15. Or
I think Torvik had them very high in his rankings as well. So yeah, I mean, I like how they have opponents. They're going to learn something about themselves, and then they have opponents like they're going to win games. But this is not an easy non-conference schedule for Illinois.
No, and Tyler Kolek might be the best player they go up against. Tyler Kolek, point guard from Marquette, maybe the best guy they see in the non-conference. So that's a huge game, another resume building win if you're able to get it. I think it's going to be fun. You're going to have some of those marquee matchups outside of that. I mean, you hope that Fairleigh Dickinson doesn't give you a Purdue-like run. I know they changed head coaches, although they did promote within the staff, and they lose some of their guards that helped beat Purdue. But they press you a ton. So, I mean, that's something that if you really want to get nitty-gritty, like in Illinois, how do they handle that and everything? But, yeah, Kansas, I don't know that we've talked about it on the pod, man. That's so awesome to be able to see what that environment's going to be like. The response to Bill Self, the response to Hunter Dickinson one more time. That's a really loaded Kansas team, though. Speaking of Torvik, they're the only team on Torvik preseason that's top 5 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. Got a good freshman class coming in. They did work in the portal. And then they got a handful of guys like McCullough back, like Harris back, KJ Adams back. They're loaded.
Let's make this a trend. Let's make this a trend where instead of a secret scrimmage, let's do these for real as an exhibition. I mean, we do preseason games in basically every other sport. Why not do this? You can still do your situational stuff. Like people will come to watch a practice between Illinois and Kansas, or Illinois, wherever. Like let's make this a trend and make it for charity if you want. That'd be phenomenal. Whatever the cause you want to do, why not do this more often? I think this is great.
100% agree. I think when you get a team like Kansas, like the environment's going to feel game-like. So it's almost got to be a game. Like, I don't know. You pretty much got to put 40 minutes on the clock, 20-20, and just let it go. And like play a legit exhibition game. Maybe if it's somebody else, you don't mind doing the situational stuff. But you're right. I mean, the crowd will eat up whatever you give them. So I think that
you can still keep score. Like you still keep score if you're doing like sideline out of bounds for 10 minutes. Like that's fine. People just want to see the basketball, man. Like, that's all they want.
100%. But yeah, I do think that this Kansas Illinois game is going to feel like a real game. And I mean, Hunter's going to want to beat Illinois. Illinois is going to want to beat Kansas. That whole thing. It's just going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Self will get an applause. It's 20 years later. I think everyone's ready to do that. Hunter will not. And Hunter will love it. And I love him for it. Love him for it. Derek Piper, thanks for the insight. As always, we'll be looking for your stuff at Illini Inquirer. Get back to nesting, man, and listening to instructions.
And watching terrible Bears football. I will do that. But I talked to Mikey Lewis and his dad. Got a story coming to the site, so look out for that.
Great stuff. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you.